One, because we're going to be talking with a cross-section of warriors living with this disease, and also just to see what they think. So I'd like to first call up Ray Blaylark, my friend and caregiver from Minnesota. Shelly Ann Crosby, a warrior from the wonderful province of Ontario. The son that deserves a prize every day for being alive and having to deal with his mother, Ishmael. From the wonderful province of Quebec, and Odobi McAllister. As you can see, they like sitting. So I'm going to start by just giving each of you a minute to quickly introduce yourself, your relationship with sickle cell, and what brings you to the work. So because Shelly has the mic in her hand, she gets to go first.
Hi everyone, my name is Shelly Ann Crosby. I am a warrior, and I am raising a trait warrior. So I have a 16-year-old daughter, and she has the trait, and unfortunately she's one of the ones that experiences minor crises with the trait. And yeah, I'm originally from Toronto, and I've been involved in many capacities in the sickle cell community for a number of years now. And I just think that education is what will always bring us forward. So any opportunities I get to educate, whether it's in a hospital bed or on the street or whatever, I always think that it's my duty to do that. So, yeah.
Thank you, Bells. Ray?
My name is Ray Blaylark. Thank you for having me. What an honor. I am from the United States, Minnesota. What brings me to this work is my 27-year-old son that lives with sickle cell disease. He's had a number of complications in addition to spine surgery that he had to have in 2014. In 2015, I founded Sickle Cell Foundation of Minnesota because I could not find the support that I needed, and I knew that if I felt that alone, that there were others who felt alone as well. And so that's what brought me to the work. And then in, 6 months after I started the organization, I was recruited by our primary pediatric sickle cell center to help them run that program. So I started the organization and managed 350 patients at the same time, and did that for 7 years until recently.
Ishmael.
Hello, good morning. So my name is Ismael, and as previously mentioned by my mother. I am 36 years old, and I've been living with sickle cell and diagnosis since I was 9 months old. So I am here to share my story with you guys.
And Adobe.
Hi everyone, my name is Odobi. I am 19 years old. I was born in Venezuela, but I live in Vancouver. This is my first conference, and I just wanted to say a big thank you to Viva and everyone who made this conference possible. I am definitely excited to be here with all of you, to hear all of your stories, to see all the sides and effects and upcoming treatments of sickle cell. I was diagnosed with SS sickle cell when I was born. I have like a whole speech planned, but it's not time for that. It's just an introduction. So, yeah.
So thank you. And since you have the mic, we're just going to keep doing this. So I'm going to just ask a question, go that way, ask a question, come back the other way. And should I let them ask you guys questions? Are you guys up for this? Letting them ask you guys questions? This is great. So, although you said you had a whole speech written out, so I'm pretty sure you did. So I'm going to ask each of you, we are in a room full of medical professionals, allies, across the spectrum, whether they be from the legal spectrum or the political spectrum, what is the number one thing that each of you think in your respective areas? Because, you know, there's Quebec, there's Minnesota, there's British Columbia, and there's Ontario here. What would you say is the number one thing that these allies can help us with to make the work easier? Like, what do you think they each need to know? And again, we gotta remind you, be careful of the time, so go.
For me, I would say helping in making sickle cell more known. As everyone who's already been presented on stage have said, sickle cell is something that is not well known enough. It definitely needs to be taught to medical professionals, people in schools, and even people who aren't even in that field. So to everyone here, I would say to help out more and to just continue doing what you're doing to bring awareness to sickle cell, to help make it more known, to open the ears and hearts of people who don't know about it.
I like that last part about open your heart, because compassion, I think, is what truly will push this forward.
Yes, so I think for me it would be, especially in the province of Quebec, not only for patients learning to give ourselves some grace, and also for healthcare providers to also give patients some grace, to see if not only on the governmental level, recognizing the disease, putting infrastructures and help in place, not only for patients when it comes to workplace accommodations, and being able to recognize the disease has incapacitating on limiting times. So being able to accommodate the patients when they need to, and being able to meet them where they are in their journey would be a big thing. I think that would be, as an ally, to be able to advocate for patients, whether it's on a governmental level, on a medical level, to be able to help in that way.
Practice that, didn't you?
I do.
You know, I think that the needs of the community are so great. I think that health equity and the disparities between conditions is devastating, and it's inexplicable when you think about medical science. But I also think about the fact that blood donation and the diversity of those who donate blood and those who join the registry so that they can potentially be a stem cell match for those who are looking for curative therapies. I think that that is very important to understand that even if you do not live with sickle cell disease or even sickle cell trait, it still affects the entire community. It impacts us all, and so we all have a role to play in improving the care, improving the treatment, and increasing that compassion you're talking about.
Sorry. So for me, in talking to my fellow warriors, one thing that always comes up is what it's like for us when we're in a hospital setting. And when you are around medical professionals who may not necessarily have the empathy or the knowledge about sickle cell and how to treat it. So I think we need to start from the basics. So in terms of nurses and doctors who are in training, I believe that they need more programs or conferences or whatever it may be, lunch and learns, specifically tailored towards sickle cell, where we do something like this, where we have warriors, where we have caregivers that are educating our future medical professionals. Because if I have a background in healthcare, I'm trained to be a nurse, and the one thing that I see is that when I was learning about sickle cell, it was maybe a 10-minute discussion. And that's not enough, because if you don't know what it is, if you don't know what the faces of this disease is and how to treat it, we're never going to get ahead. So I think that we definitely need to start with our education system when it comes to nursing, medicine, and to have like a day or a weekend where it's like an intensive where you're teaching them about sickle cell, so that when they do go into the field and they're treating us, they have the knowledge, they have the tools to be able to do that, because there's a very big gap in that. And I think that's, for me personally, like I said, education is, one of the things I am always doing, and I think that would start to make a big difference if our medical professionals actually knew and could treat us appropriately.
I like that one, and I'm not going to complain because that is one of the things I say every single day. Starting with Shelly. As you can tell, I've known her for way too long. So please forgive me if you hear me go between Shells or Bells or Shelly. Like, I've known her since she was 14. My bad. Can each of you please tell us how you feel about the future of sickle cell disease and all the things that are on the horizon? Like, we just had Dr. Forte talk about Adagbeo and hydroxyurea. We've all heard about CRISPR technology, gene therapy, BMT, bone marrow transplant. What do each of you see in the future of sickle cell?
So for me, I feel hopeful because I feel like we're at a point that's pivotal where there's more coming down the pipeline. And for those of us who are a little bit older that have lived with this and who do the work and attend conferences and speak and educate, we are shifting the narrative and we are demanding to be heard. And we want to leave it a little bit better for the ones coming after us. And I think that to an extent it's starting to happen. And so I'm hopeful that it will continue and that the experiences that I have had to go through, that anyone that comes after me wouldn't have to experience those things. So that's how I'm feeling right now.
Great.
I'm really excited about all of the therapies and treatments that are in the pipeline. I think the reality is that sickle cell disease was ignored in research for so very long, and if you have any nerd in you, it's actually really intriguing to study sickle cell disease, and so there's this newfound excitement in this, so that sickle cell disease doesn't have to be a death sentence. What I look forward to is that not only the improvement in the quantity of life, but there's truly an emphasis on the quality of life. It's not enough to live longer if you don't live better longer. So that, for me, is something that I'm excited about and I look forward to.
I mean, like Reggie said, it's important to improve the quality of life for the patient, but at the same time, hindsight is 20/20. I think for here, especially in Province of Quebec, there have been people who have been on like hydroxyurea for years upon years, but we're still having major gaps that we don't know about, and we're still having questions for medical professionals about people who have been taking the medication for so many years. So I see some hope in the new treatments that are coming, and hopefully those treatments are also coming with more questions with more answers that they come with questions, that the research is done and that the space is given to the patients and to the younger patients as well to be able to have not only access to them quickly, and access to them with more answers than they question when they get to those treatments.
As everyone has already said, I'm feeling hopeful for the possible treatments that are to come. I agree with what, completely forgot your name, but I agree with what she said about the quantity of life and for treatments to better not only the quality, but how we as warriors live and deal with sickle cell. As Ismail said, with the important part of being able to I think that with the treatments that are coming further down the line, that we should continue to be hopeful for it and to, be optimistic about the opportunities that are to come for people with sickle cell. I want for us to be able to have a cure, for us to be able to not have to worry about dying because of sickle cell, but, because we deserve a cure too, but yeah.
Ray has asked to add one thing really quickly, so I'm just going to let Ray add.
I think the other thing that is important is that those of us who are in highly resourced areas, the expansion of these options into under-resourced areas so that there is access for all, not just for some.
Excellent. So I've been told by the Queen that I am too professional right now and I need to get sappy. So, so I'd like to ask each of you about. Did you guys hear that? Like, did anybody else besides me hear what Viva Tinka just said? No? Let me just let you guys know. She said, I'll ask the question myself. Please feel free, Miss Viva.
Well, Ray, my friend.
Raise up your voice.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's important. I just want to hear you tell us about how life is, how life has been with sickle cell disease. Please speak from the heart. How, I want to start with my friend Ray, your caregiver just like me. Tell us.
Ray, before you start, there's a reason I love that lady over there and sometimes don't, is story, because at the same time, the minute we go overboard, I'm going to get yelled at. And she's asking questions.
No.
And she's asking questions that are, so Ray, I do want to hear the answer, but please, let's keep questions like that for you. They were coming later on in my set of questions. But...
Oh, no. Well, this is what
You're currently taking the time that we've been speaking. It was life-changing. My son was diagnosed, I learned at 2 weeks old because of newborn screening that we have in the States. And it changed everything. I can honestly say that I almost went into this autopilot for a number of years because although I knew that I learned in high school that I had the trait, no one ever explained to me what that meant. And so 7 years later, when I had a child that was diagnosed with sickle cell disease, the only thing that I could think about was, so now on top of being black, he has to have a disease that people consider a black disease. And so I set out very intentionally to learn as much as I could so that I could empower him, so that he never had to feel like that this was something to be ashamed of, or that he had to hide himself, or that he had to be less than the best version of himself that he could be. And so in those efforts to do that, I also found that there just was not open conversation, and there was not support. It was challenging to me that the only persons that I could go to for information are the people within systems that hold the power. I needed to go to my community. I needed to hear from other caregivers, people who were older than the age they told me my son would live to. And the reason that I started an organization was because I had to become what I was looking for.
That was excellent. I'm going to let Viva pick who goes second, third, and then fourth.
So, Viva, you're looking for our story, is that it? Okay, so my story with sickle cell began when I was 4 years old, and I experienced my very first crisis. My family lived in St. Vincent, which is a tiny little island, and there wasn't very much resources there. And at the time, my eldest sister was in Canada already, and when she found out that I was diagnosed, she brought us all to Canada so that I can have access to better health care. I have been through some challenges with this disease in doing things that were supposed to be good for me, but then ended up having not so great results. So for example, a lot of my warriors can relate to the fact that starting an IV on us can be very challenging. And so my doctor recommended that I had a port placed, which was great. And then I went into the hospital and I encountered a nurse that did not use proper aseptic technique to access my port. And I developed an infection. And unbeknownst to us at the time, it caused a blood clot that traveled to my heart and started growing. And for about a year and a half, I was very sick. And I was back and forth to the doctor, trying to figure out what was going on. Why was it that I would just literally collapse from being exhausted, from not doing very much? And so I ended up in the hospital, and my regular doctor at the time was on vacation, but I was seeing another doctor that knew me very well because I had been going to this hospital since I was around 17, 18 years old. And so I've developed great relationships, which is something that's very important for us to do. And so this one doctor, knowing me, she was like, something's wrong, because I woke up one morning just swollen from head to toe. And she's like, you know what, let's do an ultrasound of your heart, which is the one thing that my doctor did not do for the year and a half that I was sick. And then they found a mass in my right atrium, sorry, and at first they thought it was something called a myxoma, which is a tumor it's not cancerous and it just randomly happens. But a lot of time it's found post-mortem because you don't know it's there and it causes a massive heart attack. And unfortunately, you know, then it's found. But so they found at the time they thought it was a tumor, and decided that I had to have open heart surgery to remove it. And so my relationship with sometimes conventional medicine, because of that, it's a little strange, because even when you do everything you're supposed to do, I'm not crying, even when you do everything you're supposed to do and that's recommended to you, sometimes there's unfortunate outcomes. So, you know, needless to say, I do what I'm told, but I also try to do things a little bit more natural. Naturopathic medicine has become a big part of my life. And I also have a daughter who's 16, which is crazy to me, that has, you know, lived with the mother with this disease. And for most of her life, I was very sick until I decided to take things into my own hands and, you know, slowly come off of all the different medications that I was on and stuff. And the moment that was very, I guess, significant for me was when she saw me being healthy for the first time, because I decided to take my health into my own hands and to, you know, do things differently, exercising, eating correctly, and all of those things, which actually work best, you know. And so, yeah, that was like this big aha moment for me when my daughter was like, "Mommy, don't stop whatever you're doing," you know. So yeah, that's a bit of my journey with sickle cell, and we'll pass it along. I didn't cry.
Eva, who's third?
Oh, yeah, okay, so I know that they were, I want to talk to, Olori.
You do know there's 5 minutes left, right?
Yes, okay, yes, but I want to
Just
talk about-
making sure.
She's the youngest on the panel, this is the first time that, and I thought maybe I saw you growing up, and she's like my daughter. She
She is my daughter. Odobi is my daughter. I wanted to talk to the young, and to tell us how somebody as young as you, who has dreams, right? And you want to get your first job. Tell us that story about the challenges that you faced. Tell us that. I want to hear that. And then when you were trying to live like any other young person, go to get a job and make some money and you couldn't, what did you do? Tell us.
Well, as everyone knows, living with sickle cell isn't an easy disease. It's very hard and it comes with many challenges. When I got my first job, I was 14, and it was at the old spaghetti factory working as a busser. I used to get very sick a lot when I was younger, which resulted in me having to be in the hospital for like weeks or even days longer than I would be needed to, work those shifts to get that money in the first place. So I would say that it's definitely not easy. My parents, like I've said, I was born in Venezuela, but my parents didn't find out that I had sickle cell until we moved here to Canada when I was 8 months old, because Venezuela didn't have the right equipment for it. So we went to BC Children's Hospital where we met Heather and Dr. Rue, they have both been a great help in my life over the years growing up. I practically lived at the hospital. It was my second home. But growing up when I was little, because of how little knowledge I had of how serious sickle cell was, I didn't take it seriously. But it's my first time living with sickle cell, and I have many things to learn and to do to help not only make my life with it easier, but to help past generations, future generations to come with sickle cell. Growing up, I thought, oh, I may have this disease, but I can still do what everyone else can do. But that's not true. Despite whether I liked it or not, I still had limitations because of sickle cell. I grew up coming home there'd be days where I'd come home from school and I'd be so exhausted I could sleep for days. There'd be days where I'd come back to school and my friends would be like, oh, where were you? I'd be like, oh, I was in the hospital for weeks. And like, oh, are you okay? No, but I'm okay now. But, sickle cell isn't something that only affects your physical, mental health. It also affects your social life, how you live, how you see things, how you get treated in society. There's been times where I've had to go to the hospital, but had to switch hospital because the doctor there either didn't want to give me the right dosage of morphine or didn't know what proper care to give me. So I would definitely say that having to go through that and, go to people who you think can help you, but they can't really help you as much as you thought they would, is not an easy thing to deal with, wishing that you were normal. And in my earlier young teenage years, I would definitely say having sickle cell affected my mental health a lot, because I thought, oh, I had all the questions of why me, why this, why that, but now I know that it's something that whether I like it or not, I do have to live with, and something that I will have to continue to learn how to live with and to continue living with until there becomes possible treatments and cures for sickle cell. And one of the main things I've started to help bring awareness for sickle cell is my business, Sickle Cell Apparel. We are an online clothing store. We sell activewear, t-shirts, dresses, bottles. He's wearing one of the hoodies that I made when I first started the business. This used to be our old logo, actually. But we decided to improvise and change it because it was too much color when we wanted to get it printed. So we changed it to something that would be smaller, shorter, easy to print, and yeah.
Thank you so much, Adobe. Alvin, can I say something just about Adobe that I want to share?
How about, let's switch.
No, we are not going to. Sorry. No, I just want to share something. Adobe, you were 16 years old when the business was funded, right? When you started Sickle Cell.
Yes, I was 16.
Yes,
Started in 2018.
Yes, and I just want to share that. Since you started this business, every single year you make a donation to SCDAC to support research. She writes me a check every single year. And that's so important. And she started when she was 16, and every single year. And every time there is a new product, she will pack a bag and send it to Miss Biba for Sickle Cell Warriors. You're going to see many gifts here. In the room, it's donated by Adobe. You're going to receive the bag that says nothing for us without us, donated by Adobe. So, kudos, thank you. And your mother, that's Mama Stella. Mama Stella. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Since we're already over time, and of course she makes sure that her son doesn't get to speak, I call that suspicious. Very suspicious. Okay. So, what Biba was really trying to pull out of this audience, which I would have gotten to, like, what's been your life like? Like, how socially has it been affected? I was going to ask about your worst experience, your best experience, but since Ms. Biba wants the story, which I'm passing out Kleenex for, which didn't happen, what she's trying to pull out of them is,
if you give him the mic, I want him to speak then, and I want to tell him what I want him to talk about. You're going to tell us, Ismael, when somebody decides to change the time or the day of your treatment, how does that affect your life, and what did you do to change that?
I mean, as a sickle cell patient, it's going to the hospital, like you said, becomes a second home. And you develop relationship with healthcare providers. But at the same time, within those experiences and those people that you meet, having somebody tell you that it's a privilege for you to have access to a care that you already not necessarily wanted in your life, it's something that is completely baffling to me. To be told that you should be grateful to have just your appointment hours be in the morning was something that was crazy to me. So when it happened to me, I had to, for the first time in all my years of being in hospital, having to put a complaint against somebody because the person had to tell me that me coming to the hospital and having an appointment in the morning was a privilege to me. It was completely insane to hear first of all. And not only that, having to be told that you're coming in the morning was a privilege was insane to hear. So I think as a patient, not only always advocating for yourself, but advocating for the space and being able to be okay to take up that space and just to be able to conciliate not only your space, but yourself, and just to know that I am living with this, but this does not define me, and to be able to fight for it was something that I had to learn this past year. So it's been something that I think for patients, you always know so much about yourself, but you're always learning still about not only your disease, but the way you are perceived. So I think for especially younger patients, to be able to know that you have something, but you also have the right to feel and to live and to breathe and to have access to the care and to have access to better care is something that I think we're all not only still learning, but I hope that it's going to change for everybody.
It's not a privilege, it's a right.
It's a right.
Thank you so much. No, hold on. Before you pass the mic, Adobe wants to say one last thing, but before he passes the mic, and the reason I'm making sure Ms. Biba can't see me, is can you please let us all know what it was like when you were trying to leave home?
I actually left home really easily. And I don't live far from home, so it's good. And I've been living on my own for almost, 15 years now, so I think, yeah, it was fun.
Thanks, Ishmael. Last words from Adobe, and then...
Another thing about another thing about hospitals. Growing up for me, like you forgot their names, but like they've mentioned, finding your veins for the IV is very hard for some people with sickle cell because some of us have small veins, and fortunately for me, I was born with very small veins, so sometimes it takes them 5-6 times to even try and get an IV in my arms. Like I even have like bruises on my arms just from nurses and doctors trying to do it, but they can't, and they have to bring the special I don't remember what machines you call it. Machines to look at my veins to be able to find it properly so that they don't have to continue causing me more pain. But I definitely think one of the things that we can also do to help bring more awareness would to start having teaching, if it could be possible, to start doing programs in hospitals where they teach about sickle cell or get people who have sickle cell or even caregivers to speak about their story, teach about the different types of sickle cell, to share information about sickle cell to help bring more awareness to it. You know, I think that since it's something that needs to be taught in all around, not only just Canada, but worldwide, because it is a worldwide disease, is, teach about it in hospitals, tell little kids about it so they start learning early, so that they can grow up learning and having that knowledge and information about sickle cell. Which is something that I think would be, referring back to our question earlier, a big help in bringing awareness to sickle cell.
Thank you so much, Adobe. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ray. Thank you so much, Charlie. Please, before you go, the Sickle Cell Association of Quebec would like to honor you all. And for everybody else, we're about to go into a health break.